Can you feel that? The atmosphere already feels different. Something is happening right now. The presence of the Holy Spirit is here, and when the Holy Spirit is present, something has to happen. Something changes. Something transforms. You can't stay the same. Listen, I'm not talking about a fleeting emotion. I'm not talking about goosebumps. I'm not talking about a moment of euphoria that quickly fades away. I'm talking about an encounter, a real encounter. An encounter that transcends the limits of the mind, that goes beyond words, that invades the depths of your being and touches that place inside you that no one else can touch. That place that might be hurting, tired, that has lost hope. Oh, I know you're tired. I know there are times when you feel like you can't go on. You've prayed so many times. You've cried out so many nights, and it seems like nothing changes. But I'm here to tell you, He hears you. You may not see it now. You may not feel it now. But He is working. The Holy Spirit is never late, never fails, never ignores a sincere cry. But listen, there's something that needs to happen first. You need to surrender. It's not just about wanting an answer. It's not just about seeking a solution. God isn't just a problem solver. He is God. He is holy. And He wants more than just to give you a miracle. He wants you. He wants all of your heart, all of your being, everything that you are. And maybe that's what's missing. Maybe what's missing isn't the miracle, but the surrender. Have you completely surrendered? I'm not asking if you've ever said a prayer. I'm not asking if you've ever been to church. I'm not asking if you've ever raised your hands in worship. I'm asking, have you surrendered everything? Everything. Your fears, your doubts, your pain, your dreams, your will. Because as long as you hold on to all of that with your own hands, He can't act. As long as you try to control everything, as long as you try to understand everything, as long as you resist what He wants to do, the heavens will remain closed over your life. But if today, now, in this moment, you let go, if you say, Lord, I don't understand, but I trust you. If you say, Lord, I don't know what to do, but I surrender. If you say, Lord, your will be done, not mine. Oh, something will happen, because God never rejects a broken heart. He never despises someone who comes to Him with sincerity, without reservations, without masks, without pride. And you know why? Because that's when He can act. That's when He can take what is destroyed and rebuild it. That's when He can take what is dead and bring it back to life. But you need to allow it. You need to stop fighting. You need to stop trying to do things your way. I see so many people who want the power of God, but don't want the presence of God. They want the miracles, but they don't want the surrender. They want the blessings, but they don't want the lordship of Christ over their lives. But it doesn't work that way. God doesn't move where there is no surrender. The Holy Spirit doesn't invade. He waits. He waits for a heart that says, Here I am. He waits for someone who is willing to leave everything behind and follow Him, not just for the miracles, but for who He is. Do you understand? It's not about what God can give you. It's about who He is. And when you understand that, when you really understand that, something changes inside of you. That anguish that you carry, that fear that paralyzes you, that sadness that insists on dominating you, all of that starts to lose its power. Because His presence is enough. His presence is what you need. And when He enters, the darkness has to leave. The chains have to be broken. The lies have to be dispelled. And the peace that surpasses all understanding takes your heart. I know there are people listening to me now who are holding back tears. I know there are people who are feeling something different in this moment, but are still resisting. Why resist? Why wait any longer? Why continue carrying this burden alone? The Holy Spirit is here, and He is calling you. He is saying, I am here. I have always been. I will always be. But you need to take a step. You need to open your heart. And if you do that, if you really do that, oh, something wonderful is going to happen. I can feel it now. His presence is so strong. He is touching hearts now. He is renewing souls now. He is restoring lives now. Not because I am saying it. Not because there is something special about me, but because He promised. And God doesn't lie. He said, if you seek me with all your heart, you will find me. and he doesn't go back on his word. So now it's up to you. What are you going to do? Are you going to continue living the same way? Are you going to continue trying to solve everything alone? Or are you going to surrender once and for all? Are you going to surrender to his presence, to his love, to his will? If you do that, if you surrender completely, oh, you will never be the same. Write in the comments, Holy Spirit, illuminate my path. If you believe that he is the light in the midst of darkness, you will never be the same. Because when the Holy Spirit enters, he changes everything. And I know that maybe you're thinking, but how? How do I do that? How do I surrender? It's simple, but it's also the hardest thing in the world, because it means letting go of control. It means abandoning the old ways, the old habits, the old fears. It means trusting, even without understanding. It means saying, Lord, I don't know what's ahead, but I choose to follow you. And that's the part that's scary, because trusting means letting go. And letting go is hard. Letting go means leaving behind what you thought you needed. It means giving God the parts of your life that you've tried to fix on your own. But listen, as long as you hold on, he can't act. As long as you try to solve everything on your own, he can't do the impossible. Because God doesn't share his glory. He's not a God of halves. Either you surrender completely, or you will continue in the same place, trapped in the same doubts, the same fears, the same cycles. But the moment you decide, the moment you really decide, oh, something supernatural happens. The heavens open. The weight disappears, peace invades. And what before seemed impossible becomes so simple, so small, before the greatness of God. And I ask you now, can you feel that? That warmth in your chest, that feeling you can't explain? That's him. That's the Holy Spirit calling you. And you have a choice to make. Because God never forces anyone. He never imposes. He never invades. He waits. And he is waiting now. Waiting for a word from you, for a whisper, for a simple, yes, Lord. And maybe right now, as you listen to this, something inside you is resisting. Maybe a voice is saying, not now. I'm not ready. That's the voice of fear. And fear always wants to keep you away from the best of God. Fear wants to keep you trapped. Fear wants to make you believe that it's not worth it. But fear is a liar, and you need to decide who you are going to believe, the voice of fear or the voice of the Holy Spirit. The voice of fear says, what if nothing changes? The voice of the Holy Spirit says, trust me. The voice of fear says, you've tried before and failed. The voice of the Holy Spirit says, I make all things new. The voice of fear says, you're not worthy. The voice of the Holy Spirit says, my love is enough for you. So what are you going to believe? Are you going to continue letting fear rule your life? Or are you going to take a step of faith and throw yourself completely into the arms of the Father? Oh, if you knew what he has prepared for you, if you knew what he wants to do in your life, if you knew the joy, the peace, the purpose that he wants to pour out on you. But first, you need to surrender. You need to open your mouth and confess. You need to make a decision. Because God moves when there is surrender. He moves when there is faith. He moves when a heart says, I can't, but the Lord can. And I want you to do that now. Right now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait to feel something different. Don't wait to understand everything. Just say, Lord, I surrender. Say that, and feel the weight disappearing. Feel the peace entering. Feel his presence taking over everything. And you know what happens next? When you surrender completely, God begins to lead you. And being led by the Holy Spirit is the most beautiful, most precious, most powerful thing that can happen in your life. Because he knows the way. He knows what's ahead. He sees beyond what your eyes can see. And he never makes a mistake. Maybe you've made so many wrong decisions. Maybe you've followed paths that only brought pain. But today is a new beginning. Today God is giving you a new chance. A chance to walk the right path. A chance to live what you were created to live. A chance to get out of fear and into freedom. And the freedom that the Holy Spirit gives is different from anything else. It's a freedom that doesn't depend on the circumstances. A freedom that can't be taken away. Because it's not based on what's around you. It's based on him. And he never changes. So, if you really surrender, if you really trust, If you really allow Him to guide your every step, you will see miracles. You will see doors opening. You will see situations transforming. You will see the impossible becoming possible. But above all, you will see Him. You will know Him. And that is the greatest miracle of all. Because knowing the Holy Spirit, walking with Him, hearing His voice, that's worth more than any blessing, more than any healing, more than any physical miracle. Because when you have His presence, you have everything. And now it's up to you. His presence is here. His voice is calling. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay in the same place? Or are you going to throw yourself completely into the arms of the Holy Spirit? If you do that, if you really do that, you will never be the same. Write in the comments, Holy Spirit, flood my life. If you desire to be filled with the glory of God, you will never be the same, because when the Holy Spirit takes someone, He doesn't just touch, He transforms. He uproots from within everything that is old, everything that is heavy, everything that prevents His life from flowing. And maybe you're feeling that now, that knot in your throat, that weight in your chest, that struggle inside of you. Because the flesh resists. The mind wants to understand. Fear wants to prevent it. But something stronger is calling. It's Him. The Holy Spirit is calling you to more depth, to more surrender, to a life where you don't just know Him by hearsay, but you experience Him, you feel Him, you live Him. Oh, what a tragedy it would be to spend your whole life inside a church and never know the real presence of God. What a tragedy it would be to know about Him, but never taste His love, His touch, His power. And there are so many living like that. So many who have become accustomed to a shallow, superficial spiritual life, who know the verses, who know the doctrines, but who have never experienced a real encounter. And you know why? Because that encounter costs something. Because to know the Holy Spirit for real, you have to let go of everything, of the fears, of the doubts, of the pride, of the hidden sins, of the wounds you refuse to let go of. You have to strip yourself of everything before Him and say, Lord, here I am, without reservations, without masks, without anything hidden. Because He doesn't reveal Himself to those who just want to feel a chill and go back to their old lives. He reveals Himself to those who seek Him with all their heart. And that means surrendering completely. It means not holding anything back. It means not saying yes to God with your lips, but no with your life. And maybe that's your dilemma. Maybe you say you want more of God, but you still cling to things He's already asked you to leave behind. Maybe you cry out for His presence, but you still feed things that grieve Him. You can't have both. You can't want fire from heaven and continue living as before. You can't want the Holy Spirit and still cling to what He's already asked you to let go of. Either He has everything, or He has nothing. And that's why so many people never experience the fullness of the Spirit. Because they say, Come, Holy Spirit, but they're not willing to make room for Him. And He never forces. He never invades. He waits. And He is waiting now, waiting for you to decide, waiting for you to truly say, I want you more than anything else. And when that decision comes from the bottom of your heart, what happens is supernatural. Because God never rejects a broken heart. He never ignores a sincere cry. And when someone surrenders completely, the heavens open. And maybe you're feeling that now, that warmth in your chest, that weight going away, that peace taking over. That's Him. That's the real presence of God. And if you surrender completely now, if you stop fighting, stop resisting, stop trying to understand everything and simply say, Lord, I trust you. He will do what only He can do. He will take what was broken and restore it. He will uproot what was holding you back and bring freedom. He will fill you with a peace that the world cannot give. But it needs to be real. It can't just be emotion of the moment. It needs to be a life decision. It needs to be a true commitment. Because the Holy Spirit is not a feeling. It's not a shiver. It's not a passing experience. He is God. And walking with Him means living in a completely different way. It means depending on Him in every step. It means seeking His voice before making any decision. It means letting Him govern every area of your life. And maybe you think, but that's hard. And I tell you, it's not hard. It's impossible. Impossible without Him. Because no one can live the Christian life with their own strength. No one can be holy alone. No one can abandon sin by their own will. But when the Holy Spirit enters, when He truly takes someone, oh, everything changes. Sin loses its taste. The past loses its power. The chains are broken. The mind is transformed. The heart is set on fire. And what before seemed impossible now becomes natural. Because it's not you, it's Him in you. And now, what are you going to do? Are you just going to feel this and continue living the same way? Or are you going to decide once and for all that you no longer want a lukewarm, empty, purposeless life? Will you just be touched for a moment and then return to the same prisons? Or will you stand up and say, enough, I want everything God has for me? If you do that, if you really do that, what God will do in your life will be so big, so powerful, so supernatural, that you will never be the same again. Write in the comments, Holy Spirit, touch my heart. If you believe He can restore all things, you will never be the same again. Because when God touches someone, He doesn't touch them halfway. He doesn't start something and leave it unfinished. He doesn't awaken a heart just to leave it empty. He completes, He transforms, He takes it to the end. But there's something that needs to happen now. You need to decide that you're not going to look back anymore. Because there's a danger that many ignore. A subtle but deadly danger. The danger of going back to what God has already taken you from. How many have already had an encounter with God, have already felt His presence, have already tasted His glory, but then, little by little, return to old habits, old doubts, old chains? Because the enemy never gives up so easily. He sees when someone starts to surrender. He sees when someone starts to experience true freedom. And then he whispers, was it real? Has it really changed? What if nothing happens? Because if he can plant a seed of doubt, if he can make you hesitate, he knows that, little by little, the passion fades. That's what happened to so many who started well but didn't persevere. Oh, how sad it is to see someone who was once filled with the Spirit, someone who once wept in the presence of God, someone who was once willing to give everything, but is now cold, empty, distant. Don't be that person. Don't let anything steal what God is doing now. Because when the Holy Spirit comes, He comes to change everything. He doesn't come for a moment. He comes for a permanent transformation, but you need to fight for it. You need to decide that you won't let anything extinguish this fire. And maybe right now, as you hear this, a battle is happening inside you. Because the Holy Spirit is pulling you closer. But something wants to hold you back, and you need to choose. Because you can't follow God and still be tied to the past. You can't run after what God has for you and still look at what He has already told you to leave behind. It's a decision. It's a step of faith. And when you take that step, when you truly decide, something happens inside you. Insecurity turns into confidence. Fear turns into courage. Doubt turns into certainty. Because now it's not about what you feel. It's about what you know. And you know that God has called you. You know that He has something greater. You know that you were not born for a common, empty, purposeless life. So why continue living as before? Why continue wasting time? Why continue allowing distractions to steal what really matters? Oh, if you understood the seriousness of this moment. If you could see what God is about to do in your life. If you knew what's at stake now. Because this is not just another word. This is a calling. The Holy Spirit is calling you to a new level, to a new surrender, to a commitment that goes beyond what you have already experienced. But that requires something. It requires you to stop playing with the things of God. It requires you to abandon lukewarmness. It requires you to decide once and for all, I belong to God. My life is His. My future is His. My heart is His. I am no longer my own. And when that decision is made, when it is sealed in your spirit, nothing can stop you. Nothing can hold you back. Because now you no longer walk alone. Now you are guided by Him. Now you are sustained by Him. Now you live for something much bigger than yourself. And you know what happens next? The supernatural becomes natural. Prayer becomes a living dialogue. The voice of God becomes so clear that you have no more doubts. His presence becomes so real that nothing else matters. Because you found Him. Not just heard about Him, not just felt it for a moment, but truly found Him. And once you find Him, Nothing else satisfies you. Nothing else attracts you. Nothing else holds you back, because now you belong to Him, and He belongs to you. So now it's up to you. Will you let this moment pass without doing anything? Will you ignore the voice of the Holy Spirit calling you? Or will you stand up now and say, Lord, I want you more than anything. More than my plans, more than my dreams, more than my will. I surrender completely. If you do that, if you really do that, oh, I can see heaven opening over you right now. I can feel the glory of God descending like a weight upon your life. He is here. He is acting. He is pouring something new over you now. But it needs to be real. It needs to be deep. It needs to be a decision that goes beyond this moment. And if it is, if it's real, if it's sincere, then you will never be the same again. Write in the comment, I believe in healing. If you trust that God can restore your health and your heart, you will never be the same again. Because when God touches someone, He doesn't touch them halfway. He comes to transform, to fill, to make new. He comes to mark, to seal, to claim what has always been His. And now, in this moment, there is something happening inside you. Something that maybe you can't explain, but that is real. More real than everything you have ever lived. It is His presence. And when that presence enters, nothing can remain the same. Oh, what a tragedy it would be to feel this now and then allow the worries of this life to steal this moment. What a tragedy it would be to be touched by God and then get distracted by fleeting things. Because there is a danger that few realize, a danger that whispers instead of shouting, the danger of forgetting. How many have already had real encounters with God, have already wept in His presence, have already felt His glory invade every part of their being, but then, over time, returned to the old routines, to the same apathy, to the same coldness? And that breaks the heart of the Holy Spirit, because He didn't just come for a moment. He didn't come to be felt only in an isolated experience. He came to stay. He came to govern. He came to transform everything, but He never forces. He never obliges. He waits. And maybe that's what He's doing now. Waiting. Waiting for you to decide. Waiting for you to take action. Waiting for you to stop wavering between two paths and say once and for all, I belong to God. My life is His. My heart is His. I no longer want to live away from His presence, because that is the decision that changes everything. That is the decision that separates those who were only touched from those who were transformed. And maybe now you feel a weight in your heart, a weight of regret, a weight of conviction, a weight of knowing that you should have made that surrender before. But listen, God is not here to condemn you. He is not pointing His finger at you. He is extending His hand. He is saying, come closer. He is saying, I still want you. He is saying, there is still time. But it needs to be now, because every second away from Him is a second wasted. Every moment without the fullness of the Holy Spirit is a moment lost, and you were not created for an empty life. You were not called to live without purpose, without direction, without fire. You were born to know God. You were born to live in His presence. You were born to be full, completely full, overflowing with His glory. But that requires something. It requires surrender. It requires renunciation. It requires a heart that is not divided between God and the world. And maybe right now you are feeling the struggle within you because the Holy Spirit is pulling you closer. But something wants to hold you back. And this is the moment of choice. Either you surrender completely and allow God to do what needs to be done, or you continue in the same place, living a life without the fullness that He has for you. And this is serious. This is not a passing emotion. This is eternity. This is your destiny. This is God's plan being fulfilled or being postponed once again. And God doesn't want any more postponements. He wants you now. He wants everything now. He wants to fill you now. But you need to make room. You need to remove what is occupying His place. You need to decide that there is nothing else in this world that is worth more than His presence. And when that decision happens, oh, what comes next is indescribable. Because God not only receives those who surrender, He transforms. He makes new. He removes the burdens. He tears off the chains. He breaks the fears. He fills with a peace that the world cannot give. And now, as you hear this, something is happening. The glory of God is descending upon you. The Holy Spirit is filling the environment where you are, because He responds to a heart that surrenders. He responds to a sincere cry. He responds to someone who says, "Lord, I surrender without reservation." And if you say that now, if you say that with every part of your being, then something supernatural will happen. The chains will break, the burdens will fall, the oppression will disappear, and you will be filled, completely filled. And from this moment on, nothing will ever be the same. From this moment on, you will no longer be able to live without that presence, because now you have known the reality of the Holy Spirit. And once you know, nothing else satisfies, nothing else fills, nothing else matters besides Him. So now it's up to you. The Holy Spirit is here. He is waiting. He is calling. What are you going to do? Will you ignore this voice? Will you let this moment pass? Or will you surrender completely? If it's real, if it's sincere, if it's from the bottom of your soul, then you will never be the same again. Write in the comment, "Holy Spirit never fails," if you have already felt His hand guiding your life. And if it's real, if it's sincere, if it comes from the deepest part of your being, then you will never be the same again. Because now you have been marked. Now you have been called. Now the Holy Spirit has touched you. And when He touches, something changes. The hunger grows. The thirst increases. The desire to be in His presence becomes greater than anything else. And there is nothing in this world that can replace that. Nothing. No achievement, no relationship, no success, no fleeting joy. Because once you experience the real presence of God, you never want to live without it again. And that is the secret of those who walk in the Spirit. They are not different because they are stronger. They are not holier because they have more discipline. They are not more used because they are special. They have just discovered something. They have discovered that nothing is worth more than remaining in that place, in that presence, in that fire. And that is the choice you need to make now. Because the Holy Spirit doesn't just want to touch you in this moment. He wants to dwell. He wants to remain. He wants to walk with you every day. He wants to be the one who guides you, who teaches you, who transforms you, who strengthens you. He wants to be the one who is present in your decisions, in your thoughts, in your dreams. He wants to be the center. But that requires something. It requires more than words. It requires more than a passing emotion. It requires a commitment. Because His presence is too precious to be treated carelessly. It is holy. It is sacred. It is everything. And now, as you stand before this reality, there is something that needs to happen. You need to decide that you will never go back, that you will never let anything steal this from you, that you will never accept living away from His voice. Because many start well, many are touched, many feel that fire burning within them, but few persevere. Few choose to pay the price of keeping that flame lit. Few choose to remain in the place of total surrender. And that is the difference between those who only feel and those who are transformed. Because the fire of God was not made to be only felt. It was made to consume everything that does not belong to Him, so that only His glory remains. And now, that is what is happening inside you. God is calling you to a new level, to a new time, to a new intimacy. But that means giving up everything that is not His. Everything. Not just the obvious sins, but the distractions, the unnecessary weights, the voices that try to take you out of His presence. Because that presence is all that matters. It is all you need. And if you protect that presence, if you seek that presence every day, if you allow the Holy Spirit to completely govern your life, oh, then you will see the impossible happen before your eyes. Because God moves through surrendered vessels. He reveals Himself to those who desire Him more than anything else. And He is ready to reveal Himself to you now. He is ready to take over every part of your being. He is ready to fill you like never before. But it needs to be real. It needs to be a total surrender. It needs to be something definitive, because this may be just another experience, or it may be the beginning of a completely transformed life. What is it going to be? Can you feel it now? His presence is here. His fire is burning. His love is enveloping you. And now, as the Holy Spirit calls you, there is something that needs to come out of your lips. Don't be silent. Don't fight against it. Just open your mouth and say, Lord, I surrender completely. Say that, and something is going to happen now. I can feel it. I can feel the glory of God invading this place. The Holy Spirit is touching you right now. Let Him fill you. Let Him transform you. Let Him take everything. And then, you will never be the same. Write in the comments, Holy Spirit, sing over me. If you wish to hear the melody of God's peace and love, share this blessed video so that it can touch and help other people like you and me. Want to delve even deeper into faith and prayer? Download our exclusive ebook on how to strengthen your spirituality in today's world. The link is in the comments below. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for being part of our faith community. If you'd like to further support our channel, please consider becoming a channel member. I'm leaving 2 more videos here so you can continue your spiritual journey and growth in faith. Thank you, and God bless you all. See you next time.